To escape to the country is always a pleasure, to relax and explore and dine at your leisure. There is one little village in the heart of Old Blighty. It appeals to all, from the meek to the mighty. The fields are stunning, the woodlands a prize, but the village itself is a sight for the eyes. Ancient stone houses, a few small rivers too, which all reach the village and then pass right through. Named for the founder and the rivers, it seems, the funny old title of Simon on Streams. For 1 week each year all the people prepare for an old festival that's called the Mayfair. Simon on Streams is the place to be, where all can enjoy the grand revelry. A wonderful spot, it's simply superb. That was till this year, when a nightmare occurred. The once joyful party brought with it despair. 5 people went missing, foul play filled the air. Here is what happened on each awful day. This may be unnerving, but I urge you to stay. First we have Claire, a social butterfly. She could steal your heart with a wink of her eye. She was often away, but came for the fair. To miss all the fun, she just wouldn't dare. She was preparing for the fair's main event, assorting the stage for the May Queen's ascent. While giving orders, so all was in place, she noticed a woman with a mask on her face. The woman walked by and gave her a fright, a tall slender woman, dressed in yellow and white. Claire thought it strange, but with the fair near, some would dress up for this time of year. Claire gave her no mind, and soon the day passed. I'm sorry to say, this would be her last. The last one to leave as darkness set in. Her attention was caught by a curious din. She followed the source so as to engage, but the sound was emerging from under the stage. She couldn't quite see, so knelt on the floor, and the harrowing mask was the last thing she saw. And so the first day of the annual fair ended with little talk of what happened to Claire. Next we have Tom, and what can I say? He never worked hard and just wanted to play. His parents were nice, and they had some money, a trust fund of sorts, which he felt was funny. He'd attend the event and enjoy the whole bash. He'd meet with the lads and go out on the lash. While walking in town to pick up some beer, he spotted a figure that caused him to leer. That tall veiled woman just stood in a crowd, staring at him while they all spoke aloud. A moment then passed, and Tom looked away, but turning once more, she had gone astray. Tom was creeped out, and picked up his pace. He collected his beer, and for home he did race. As night settled in, and his parents not home, Tom made for the hot tub, where he sat all alone. He turned on his music, something loud and profound. It rang through his ears, blocking all other sound. An unfortunate time for sense deprivation, as a figure drew close with no apprehension. When morning arrived, Tom was no longer there. He was not seen in town, though most didn't care. The third day, however, was when suspicion grew at the loss of another, a sportsman named Drew. And an athlete indeed, the head of the team. To play football for England was this lad's big dream. He was with friends, just kicking a ball, perfecting his skills so to take on them all. They spoke of the fair and what they would see, but then Drew saw a figure lurk behind an old tree. It was the same woman, the one in the mask. If she wanted to scare them, she'd finished her task. Well, that is just creepy. Drew spoke his mind. More well-suited words you would surely not find. Was she kidding or crazy? They quietly feared. She stepped out from sight and then disappeared. Well, after that show, they called it a day. It wasn't that late, but none wished to stay. They went separate ways, and Drew walked alone, staring intently deep into his phone. If he had looked up, he may have caught sight of the figure awaiting in the now faded light. The entire night passed, there wasn't a trace. Word spread of the woman who covered her face. But one had not heard of the haunting foul play. His name was Pat, and this was the 4th day. Pat knew this village like the back of his hand. He'd wrote several books of the law and the land. He kept to himself, he was quiet and old, though still a good man from what I've been told. At work at his desk on his next history book, but footsteps outside just urged him to look. Peering outside, Pat felt oddly tense as a tall and masked woman then walked by his fence. He could just about see from where he was sat, she was staring inside and directly at Pat. She slowly walked on and soon left his sight. He thought to go check, but that didn't feel right. With so much to do, she was soon gone from thought, and more time for his book is what this man sought. He wrote and researched, this work was his best, but study is wearing, Pat needed some rest. So Pat lay in bed for a nap and no more, but sadly for him, he did not lock the door. Being so quiet, no one had known what happened to Pat when he wasn't alone. The 5th day had come, all locals were busy, especially one girl, and her name was Izzy. A wonderful soul, filled with only joy, no malice at heart, no ulterior ploy. She just liked to help with whatever the cause, a philanthropic one, she'd respond without pause. Tonight was the night to crown the May Queen. She'd opened the show and then stay to clean. While setting in place the very last fixture, a thing caught her eye which did not fit the picture. There on the throne where the May Queen would sit, a mysterious garnet which intrigued her a bit. As she approached, the feeling she wrought of rising unease, but onwards she fought. She picked up the garnet, and with a curious frown, she studied it close. It looked like a crown. The crown was so odd, looking almost organic. This set a red flag, which made Izzy panic. She hurried to leave, but was just not aware that when she turned around, the masked woman was there. So now you know, and I'm sure you regret hearing what happened, but it's not over yet. So busy preparing for this year's May Fair that only few spoke of who was not there. Whispers and rumours, but with all on the go, some had surmised it was part of the show. The time had now come for the season's event, so all made their way to the Queen's royal tent, where they would name, for this year at least, the village's May Queen, then on to the feast. With all now inside, keenly anticipating, around a large curtain where the Queen would be waiting. The curtain then dropped, and opposed to a cheer came a picture so awful it gripped them in fear. Instead of a queen was a cold empty throne, and circled around 5 dead kneeled prone, their bodies disfigured in a terrible scene, as if humbled before their absent May Queen. The people erupted in horror and screams at the nightmarish sight to haunt all their dreams. Reports then came out of the woman some saw. She was now the prime suspect and pursued by the law. She had not been seen since that terrible night. Please report what you can, it could cast on some light. Though on the last day it has been duly said, she danced with a crown that stained her hair red. So I bid you a warning, for when spring's in the air, whomever she is, the May Queen is out there. Good day, I'm Jar19 and thank you for listening. So, what did you think of the May Queen? Hopefully we'll have you a little more watchful as the spring months settle in and we all start to relax. It was a nice change of pace trying something more let's not meet than the usual no sleep. But don't worry, there'll be plenty more monsters coming your way. I hope that you enjoyed today's video. If you did, then perhaps subscribe, leave a like, and if you're feeling particularly cheeky, maybe even a comment. I do hope that you'll join me again. Stay safe, sleep well. But remember, here we make monsters.